Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Pilots and Drones podcast. I am your host. That's right, the coach, Kent Nerhus. We're here to talk to you about getting started in FPV today. This is going to be one of our running segments, 20 topics on how to get started in the drone industry. And let's go with topic number one. How do you get started? Well, the number one way to get started is called Drone Champs. That's right. Visit thedronechamps.com. Simple plug there. Or if you're in the Southern California area, come on down to the Westminster Mall where we have a brick and mortar shop where we can get you all started. Now, one of the biggest questions we get is, how can I get started in drones and specifically FPV? Everybody wants to wear the goggles. Everybody wants to be a racer. So what we do is we try our best to get everyone the most proper situation that's best for them. There are some people that are tech people and they're into it and they love it. And then there's some people that are just getting started and they've never picked up a drone, never played video games, nothing, but they want to take a picture of their family, they want to go on vacation, take pictures, or they want to get started with a new career, possibly making some drone videos and putting it out there, possibly becoming a YouTube content creator or whatever content creator, TikTok, Micmoc, whatever's out there. You know what I mean? Instabook, Facegram, all those wacky social medias. Who knows what's next? Okay, so what does FPV mean? It stands for first person view. So there's a few different types of drones that you can fly. Some have cameras, some don't, and some you fly from a screen, and some the screen is on your head, the goggles. And when you're flying from the goggles, there is a collapse of your peripheral vision. Your peripheral vision is 0 to none. You are seeing what the drone sees, which is a focused type of camera angle, usually around 240 degrees. Sometimes you could get a little bit wider or something like that, but generally you want to keep that focus tight because of the way you fly, and you want to make sure that you're getting kind of the accurate data that your eyes are seeing and your brains can process in order not to hit something and to be able to take in the situational awareness. So FPV, that's right, you got to fly with the goggles. Another thing about FPV is most of the time you got to keep it up. You have to float it yourself, which means you have to control the elevator, the left stick, and then the accelerator, the right stick at the same time. But you're going to get more dynamic shots when it comes to FPV flying. You're going to be able to chase cars. You're going to be able to shoot what we call small gaps or small holes, say through a tree or go through the door of a house to get a real estate shot. So it depends on what type of industry, what type of use case you are trying to use the drone for. You can even use an FPV drone in inspections, where one individual flies the drone via FPV camera and another individual uses the camera that's on the drone, and they are what is either called a gimbal operator or a secondary camera operator on the drone. So one drone operator flies, say they're flying straight down a power line, and then the other camera operator is taking the pictures of the towers and things like that. It happens a lot in the movies as well. One operator will be flying the drone while the other operator is actually using the camera and the gimbal. A lot of the time, though, FPV drones do not have gimbals. They're usually fixated onto the drone. You try to use dampeners and shocks, things that will soften the vibration as much as possible, and then maybe use a little post-production in order to get your shot. Where some other drones, they will use what are called gimbals, which are motorized mechanisms in order to stabilize the camera no matter how fast the drone goes. Now, some drone operators do put those gimbals onto FPV drones, but those are very advanced drones, very advanced gimbals, and very expensive, And we're not to that in this first episode. You'll get there hopefully one day. So what we're going to get, the rundown is started with some gear, training at Drone Champs, of course, and then overcoming the overwhelming anxiety that comes with FPV. So you got a lot of gear options out there, whether you want to go digital or analog. So you got kind of a fork in the road. Digital, those are those crisp, clear shots that you see, and you're going to get really crisp and clear footage through your goggles to your drone. There might be some latency involved where if you hit the stick, it's going to turn a little late, but you can compensate for that. They've gotten really good at it with the new units, though, specifically DJI. Walk Snail, which is another HD system, they have a low latency as well. You're going to have to devy into that, but we're not there yet on which one to pick, Walk Snail or DJI. Of course, you can look it up 50,000 times on how who's better, who's not, who does this, who doesn't do that. They all have their special use cases, but in the end, it's up to you to determine which one is best for you. Now, analog, that's where you're usually going to start out at. Analog, it's cheaper. It's a cheap investment. Problem is low quality video. Actually, terrible quality video. You're going to get video that looks like you're watching Mr. Rogers in 1978. It's analog. It's what we used to watch when you had bunny ears. You're going to see squiggly lines, all these things going through your video, but it's cheap and it's effective. It has very low latency, 0 to none latency actually, which means when you hit the sticks, your drone's going to move exactly how you want it. There's still a lot of people running analogs and slapping a GoPro on top of the drone in order to get the crisp, clear footage. But some people, they're already buried in to one side or the other, and it's tough to convert your stuff from analog to digital sometimes if you don't have the proper help. But again, if you need help, always head down to Drone Champs at the Westminster Mall. So, you know, some things you might, there might be a little myth out there. You need $1,000 to get started. That's actually not true. If you want to go digital, you're creeping closer to that price range. But even then, you can get a little cheaper. The biggest issue you're going to run into is your goggles. Now, the goggles, whether you Goggles 3, Integra with DJI, or version 2, or if you decide to go with Goggles X or something like that, or HD 0, which is kind of like a borderline between analog and digital. Which one are you going to choose? Which one is going to be best for you? That's really up to you. But analog is going to be your cheapest way to get into the game. Now, you want to start with what I like to call a micro drone, or also known as a tiny whoop. They're little 65 millimeter drones, 75 millimeter drones, even 85 millimeter drones, which is the size of the frame when we're talking about the millimeters, and they can fly around. They're like little tanks. They can hit walls, and they're cheap. You're going to start around anywhere between $90 to $150 to start yourself out with an analog controller. Now, or I'm sorry, analog drone. Now your controller, which is what's next, if you want to go budget, you could get a Radio Master Pocket. Going to hit you out at $65. No batteries. You get the batteries for an extra $10, $11. You're at $75, $85 for the controller. Then, if you go out, you get yourself some cheap Beta FPV VR03 goggles. You're set. Those are about $85. So you got 150. Say you got 100 in the drone. Okay, you got 100 into the drone. You got 85 into the goggles, and you got about 85 into the controller. That's about $300. Now remember though, with the goggles and the controller, you can future-proof yourself. You can use those with a lot of other whoops and things like that. Now the goggles, those are going to be a little bit of an Achilles heel because you're going to want to upgrade those eventually. And what you're going to want to go to is probably some Fat Shark Scouts, or if you want to go to some HDOs. and get yourself started, to where once you get the HDOs, then you can really just keep going from there, and you can add on receivers and things like that, like the Immersion RC rapid fire, or some Speed EB. You just plug it in. Now you can find channels. You have things like that in order to be able to switch channels if you're flying with somebody else, or find your strongest channel. Okay, now again, beginner friendly. The entry point. Again, whoops, whoops, whoops. I'm all about whoops, especially flying indoors. You're not going to hurt anybody. You're not going to hurt anything. Even if you fly inside of an apartment, you're okay. You're not going to bother anybody. You're not going to bother any neighbors. No one's going to call the cops on you. And then eventually you can start creeping outside. You know, they can't really handle the wind too much, but what they can do is they can fly in zero wind. And what you can also do is you can play around with the software, like Beta Flight, if that's what you're using, or something else. There's a lot of other ones out there now, KISS, Ghost, things like that. But if you're using Beta Flight, which is the most common, then you can kind of start changing what we call rates, or if you want to tune it and things like that. That way, when you crash or you make a mistake, it's not going to be real expensive like you would get with a 5-inch drone. And again, it's less intimidating. You know, if you want to fly it at the barbecue or the parties, or around your friends, let people know that you're the drone person. That's exactly how you do it with drones like that. Now, again, where do you go now? How do you learn to fly the drone? You got yourself the equipment, you got yourself drone, goggles, controller. Where do you go? That's kind of a little bit of a tough part, because right now there's really only a few places. Number one, being Drone Champs. Drone Champs offers $25 for 30 minutes for your lessons. You can use their drones, and once you get deeper into it, you can even rent their equipment. You can rent their goggles, you can rent their controllers, and you can rent the drones themselves. And just get yourself some track time. But lessons are really, really important. That way, you do not run into issues when you come into crashing, or what the heck's an elevator or an accelerator, how sensitive the controls are when it comes to GPS drones that have steady state, like DJI drones, for example, versus these FPV drones where you're doing all the work. You're handling it all. It's a full skill set. It's up to you. But again, getting started, as a coach told me once, you would never want to go to school without a teacher. So why would you go to drones without an instructor? It's the same situation. If you don't live near Drone Champs, then my best suggestion would be look at a local junior college or preparatory school or something of that nature. A flight school near you as well, at an airport, they might have it. But again, right now, Drone Champs is really the #1 place in the country, actually in the world, for you to get drone lessons from their top instructors, myself included. I'm gonna put that flag up right there. And of course, I'm wearing that great gear that you can get at thedronechamps.com. But again, you want to be able to have someone coach you through this whole situation. They got the indoor track that's got lights. You can have a lot of fun with it. But again, get yourself an instructor. That's going to be your fastest way in order to help you get to the end goal that you want. Okay, and here's some tips for FPV piloting in the beginning, even regular drones. You're gonna wanna probably start with a simulator. Now, I'm not big on the simulators. I know people are saying, Kent, you're always down on the simulators. I have come around, okay? Simulators do have a use case. What I don't like is that people rely on simulators too much. So I do suggest you getting a simulator. There's plenty of them out there. Velocidrone is a great one. That's the one that I use. You can tune and you do things with the drone. The physics aren't the same, but again, you can learn drones. You can learn to fly them. You can learn the switches. You can learn the elevator and the accelerator. You can learn kind of how sensitive it is. But once you actually fly a drone, you're going to understand that you're only going to be using about 25% of what you learned in the simulator. But once you learn, then the simulator helps you hone your skills and allows you to level up really on a cheaper platform rather than going out and crashing your drone all the time. So it lets you push yourself. It allows you to do things that you normally probably wouldn't want to do because you're going to have to repair it. And again, if you want to repair it, come on down to Drone Champs, starting at $60 an hour. Also, you can learn to build your own drone with our Build a Drone course at $300. Now we're going to wrap it up here. So what are we going to do? First, you're going to contact Drone Champs, and you're going to get in contact with some of those great flight instructors with their knowledgeable staff, and you're going to get your journey started. Number two, we're going to start small, right? We're going to start with a simulator, a tiny whoop micro drone, 65 millimeter, 75 millimeter, and then we're going to get ourselves a controller and some goggles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to book an appointment at Drone Champs with a flight instructor in order for you to understand the equipment that you have and what you can fly. And then finally, you're going to get off making your first video if you'd like, or you're going to be out there winning races or just flying with your friends. If any of those things sound great to you, then head on down to Drone Champs, get involved in drones, check out our blog at thedronechamps.com/blog. We also do have a Part 107 practice test on our website for when you're ready to start getting that commercial work in. But thank you again for visiting us here at the Pilots and Drones podcast. I am your host, Kent, the Coach Nerhus, and we'll see you on that next flight.